Ever wondered what really goes down inside a cremation chamber? You know, behind those closed, silent doors? It's one of those deep-cut questions that feels a little eerie, maybe even taboo, but also kind of fascinating, right? It's like we see the end result, the urn, the ashes, but the process in between. Total mystery. Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain. We're going to break down the science of cremation step by step in a way that's respectful, clear, and honestly, pretty mind-blowing. So, if you're curious about the final transition and the incredible science behind it, stick around. This is a journey into chemistry, physics, and what it means to return to our most basic elements. Let's start with the main piece of equipment, the cremation chamber. The technical term for it is a retort, which sounds super industrial, and for good reason. It's essentially a super-powered, high-temperature furnace, but it's way more sophisticated than just a big oven. This thing is built with some serious engineering. It's lined with thick, heavy-duty, heat-resistant bricks, kind of like what you'd find in a pottery kiln or a steel mill. The whole point is to contain and manage insane amounts of heat safely and efficiently. We're not talking about your kitchen oven's 450 degrees. We're talking temperatures that typically range from 1400 to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that in perspective, volcanic lava is usually in that same ballpark. So yeah, it's seriously hot. The design of a retort is all about controlled processes. It's not just about cranking up the heat, it's a delicate dance of extreme temperature, controlled airflow, and time. The goal is to break down the human body to its most basic mineral components. You might think of it as a place of finality, but it's really a place of transformation. It's where biology meets high-temperature physics, and the result is a return to a simpler state of matter. It's a powerful piece of machinery, but its purpose is deeply human and has been part of our rituals for thousands of years, just with a modern scientific twist. So, how does the process actually begin? First things first, respect and dignity are paramount. Before anything happens, the deceased is identified and prepared. Pacemakers, which contain batteries, have to be removed because they could explode under high heat. Same goes for certain prosthetic implants. Then, the body is placed inside a combustible, dignified container. This is usually something like a simple pine box, a sturdy cardboard container, or sometimes a more traditional casket made of wood. The key is that the container has to be completely consumable by the heat, leaving no residue behind, no metal, no plastic. Once ready, the container is gently and mechanically loaded into the preheated main chamber of the retort. The door is securely sealed, and this is where the real science kicks in. A powerful burner, usually fueled by natural gas or propane, ignites, but here, as a common misconception a lot of people have. The body is not directly exposed to flames. It's not like a bonfire. Instead, the chamber is filled with intense, radiating heat. Think of it like standing near a massive bonfire. You feel the heat waves washing over you, right? It's that thermal energy, combined with a carefully managed flow of oxygen, that drives the entire process. The heat comes from the burners, but the transformation itself is a flameless thermal event. It's a much more controlled and, in a way, gentler process than most people imagine. So, the door is closed, the heat is on. What happens next? In the first few minutes, the intense heat begins to work on the outside. The container combusts almost instantly, and the heat starts to vaporize the soft tissues of the body. Our bodies are about 60% water, and at these temperatures, that water turns to steam very quickly. The process is incredibly rapid. Within the first hour, most of the organic matter, the skin, muscles, organs, and other soft tissues is broken down. It's a process called thermal decomposition. Essentially, the complex organic molecules are reduced to simpler gases, like carbon dioxide and water vapor, and a few mineral fragments. It's wild to think about how quickly energy transforms matter. The body, which is a complex biological machine, is being systematically deconstructed by thermal energy. The gases produced are safely vented through an exhaust system. Modern retorts have a secondary chamber, sometimes called an afterburner, which operates at an even higher temperature. Its job is to burn off any remaining particles or odorous compounds from the main chamber, ensuring that what's released into the environment is clean, odorless, and smokeless. It's a closed-loop system designed for efficiency and environmental safety. It's pure chemistry in action, turning complex life into simple, stable compounds. Now, Let's talk about what doesn't burn away: the bones. This is another huge misconception. People often think cremation burns everything to a fine gray ash, like what you find in a fireplace after burning wood. But that's not what happens at all. Bone is primarily made of calcium phosphate and collagen. The extreme heat burns away the organic collagen, but the mineral structure of the bones remains. What happens is a process called calcination. The bones become extremely brittle and change color, turning a pale, chalky white. They lose their organic components but keep their basic shape, at least for a while. After the full cycle, which usually takes about 2 to 3 hours depending on various factors, the retort begins its cool-down phase. This can take a couple of hours. You can't just open the door when it's 1800 degrees inside. Once it's safe, the operator opens the chamber and carefully collects what's left. And what's left are these calcified bone fragments. They are not ash. They are essentially the mineral skeleton of the person, just in a very fragile state. These fragments are swept out into a cooling tray. Any non-combustible materials that might have been missed, like surgical screws, hip replacements, or dental fillings, are carefully removed at this stage using a strong magnet and visual inspection. These are then typically recycled responsibly. So what about the ashes that families receive? This is the final step in the process. The cooled bone fragments are placed into a special processor. This machine is basically a powerful grinder, often called a cremulator. It pulverizes the brittle bone fragments into the fine sand-like powder that we commonly call cremains or ashes. The consistency is uniform, and the color can range from a pale white to a grayish-brown, depending on the mineral composition of the individual's bones. The entire volume usually fits into a standard urn. This final step is what creates the substance that can be scattered, buried, or kept. It's the processed result of a high-tech thermal process, not the direct result of burning. Now, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Why do people choose cremation? Beyond personal, spiritual, or family reasons. There are some pretty compelling practical arguments, especially from an environmental perspective. Traditional burial takes up land, and that land is dedicated pretty much forever. It also involves embalming fluids, which contain chemicals like formaldehyde and the use of materials like hardwood and steel for caskets. Cremation, on the other hand, has a much smaller physical footprint. It doesn't require a plot of land, and the process is getting more and more efficient. In fact, some of the most modern cremation facilities are incredibly efficient. They've started implementing heat recycling systems. The immense energy generated by the retort doesn't just go up the chimney. It can be captured and used to heat the facility's water, or even generate electricity. This kind of innovation dramatically reduces the carbon output and makes the whole system feel a lot more sustainable and future-minded. It aligns with a growing desire to leave a lighter touch on the planet, even in our final act. It's science not just for efficiency, but for ecological responsibility. It's really something to think about, isn't it? The process is so rooted in hard science chemistry, thermodynamics, engineering, but the context is all about emotion, memory, and closure. We see the glowing steel, we understand the physics of heat transfer, and then we transition to a calm riverside, a peaceful forest, or a family's mantelpiece. The science doesn't make death colder or more clinical. If anything, it highlights the natural cycle of transformation. It shows us that everything in the universe, including us, is made of energy and matter that simply changes form. When you really get down to it, the heat and chemistry of the retort rewrite our physical form. But our stories, our impact, the love we shared, that stuff, is untouchable. It exists outside the realm of physics. Understanding the science of cremation doesn't diminish the mystery of life or the sacredness of death. For me, it actually adds a layer of awe. It shows how the universe has these fundamental rules of transformation, and we are a part of that grand, cosmic dance. It's a peaceful, orderly, and in its own way, beautiful return to the elements. So, the next time you think about cremation, maybe you'll see it a little differently. Not as something to fear or avoid talking about, but as a fascinating intersection of human ritual and scientific precision. It's a process designed to be respectful, efficient, and ultimately, a transformative final step. Thanks so much for going on this deep dive with me today. It's a heavy topic, but I think an important one. If you found this interesting and want to explore more topics that sit at the crossroads of science and life, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Drop a comment below with your thoughts or any other curious questions you have. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.